Question: do you have a plan for your marriage? Did you have one in 2024? I'll bet not. Do you have one for 2025? Because if you don't, then you're like a blow-up boat adrift on the ocean. You have no idea where you're going to end up and really no control over it.
As Forrest Gump might say, life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get until you take a bite. But that's not entirely true. You can take yourself down to C's Candies, you can pick out a box, and you can load it with your favorite things. Dark chocolate, milk chocolate, chocolate-covered nuts. But the key is that you actually plan with intention to get exactly what you want.
Well, in this video, we're going to guide you through the process of creating a definitive plan for your marriage so that by the end of 2025, you'll be happier, you'll have more certainty about your future together, and you'll be way more excited about life. So how to know if this video is for you? Well, if you're dissatisfied with your relationship, then it's for you. If you're in a sexless marriage, or you're bored, you feel like you're leading separate lives, you don't know what the next step is to take, well, this video is definitely for you. But at this point, you need to pause and go find a journal or a piece of paper and a pen so that you can take notes, because we have got a lot for you today, and you definitely need to be writing these things down.
And the great news is that most people are with the perfect person for them. They just don't have the skills, the resources, the strategies to change things when things go awry. But that's going to change today.
Really a good point. So what is a business plan, and how in the heck does this apply to marriage? Well, typically in a business plan, it's a formal system for identifying what you want and how you're going to get it strategically, right? So for example, it all begins with a mission statement. You've got to identify specifically what you want, why you want it, what has to happen to get it. In other words, the steps that you're going to take, the money that you're going to need, the time that you've got to allocate to the process, maybe who you need to connect with, right? And the order that these things need to happen. And if you don't have that plan, then you're just like that boat adrift on the ocean. So if you don't have a plan like that for your marriage, then by the end of 2025, you really have no idea what you're going to get.
And a mission is so much more than just you. Most people get into a marriage, a relationship, because of how it makes them feel. But there's so much opportunity above and beyond that. It's to serve, it's for personal growth, it's to create a family, it's to create a refuge and a respite, a home of joy and levity and happiness, and to reach beyond just your nucleus of a family, but to actually touch your friends and your extended family, your community, by representing the ultimate example of what love is.
All of this starts with one thing. Anybody that's successful at anything, whether it's a business, whether it's a diet or an exercise program, or a marriage, it all begins with commitment. I mean, that's what getting married was about, right? The whole ceremony, the marriage ceremony, and the vows that we took were intended to be a commitment that we were making to ourselves and to each other. And somewhere along the line, we lost sight of what it was that we were committing to, right? So it all begins with commitment.
And not only about commitment, is that it's just super, super powerful word, and it's super powerful when you implement it. Because essentially when you commit to something, you are cutting off all other possibilities. If you actually went into your marriage or relationship, or even look at it today and decide, the failure is absolutely not only not an option, but having a great marriage is the only option.
So today, commit to going all in your marriage. Commit to keeping your vows at a higher level. In fact, we would encourage you to write a commitment statement at this point. So begin by writing in your journals a statement of commitment. Something like, I commit to going all in on my marriage in 2025. I commit to keeping my vows at a higher level, making my marriage my #1 priority. And I commit to doing whatever it takes to completely turn things around in 2025. And in the rest of this video, we're going to show you how to do that.
I love the idea of committing to be the absolute best person that I can be, that I show up with my A game, but you do that again through intention, with practice, and with skills and tools to set you up for success.
In order to achieve anything, generally speaking, you begin with the end in mind because that is the only way that you know what to do. To begin with the end in mind, you've got to have a vision for your marriage.
And it needs to be crystal clear. It needs to be vivid. It needs to be something that gets you excited. It makes you want to jump out of bed in the morning and actually keep you on track when the going gets tough.
So here's some questions that you may want to pause the video for from time to time that will get your juices flowing and help stimulate your mind as you create and visualize what the ideal might be for you. You know, the reasons that we got married for in the first place. If you've been stuck in a passionless or a sexless or a frustrating marriage for some time, it can be really difficult to get your imagination going. So here's some questions to help stimulate that. How do you feel when things are great in your marriage and you're in love with each other? You've really got to get in touch with these feelings because the feelings are the driving force for going through this process. In your vision, how do you act when you see each other at the beginning of each day and at the end of each day? What change will your kids notice in you as you've made these improvements in your relationship? What will your influence in the community be like? What will it be like in your church as people notice this miraculous change between Tad and Kimberly? What will you consistently be doing together to have fun? What will you be doing recreationally? What will your sex life look like? How often will you be making love? And what will those experiences be like? How are you going to be looking forward to them? How do those experiences make you feel? What will have changed in your home environment?
You know, I love all of those questions, and I like things that also trigger the emotion that I would be experiencing or the feelings I'd be experiencing on an ongoing basis. So for me, I like to think about how would interaction be? The communication style be? Would it be something that brings you joy? Would there be levity? Because it's so easy to just get used to running the business of life and running a family, so to speak. But what would the affection be like? What would the touches be like? What would the kisses be like? What would it even be like when you're introducing your spouse to another person? Your spouse is the most important person on the planet to you, or so they should be. And in doing so, it should be a demonstration through all of your actions with that person.
Another thing that Kimberly and I are going to do, and we've done this in the past, but we're planning on doing this in the next couple of days, and that is to create a dream board for our marriage. We're creating one for our life, we're creating one for our business, but we're going to create one specifically for our marriage. And what's that going to look like? It's going to pictorially, is that a word? Pictorially demonstrate and illustrate what we want to be doing and feeling and experiencing in the next 12 months. And it's going to be something that we can refer to remind ourselves on a daily basis to prioritize our relationship and to schedule the things that matter most and to keep in mind the feelings that we expect to experience when we do these things.
What's wonderful about a dream board is that when you create a dream board and you put it someplace where it's present in your home that you can see it daily, it's magic. You will actually experience the very pictures that you're seeing on that dream board. So I love putting things like activities, workshops, essentially experiences that I want to incorporate in my life. And then you plan it, it magically comes to fruition.
All right, so step one is you're making a new commitment. Step two is you get crystal clear on what it is that you want. That's the vision. That's the dream board. And once you're crystal clear on what you want, the next step is to identify why you must achieve this result. You've got to have a big why. You've got to have a compelling reason why achieving the marriage of your dreams is a must. It's not optional. And one thing that we've done to help identify what that big why is for us, it's about getting really deep. For me, it's about going beyond myself because sometimes I'm not willing to do what I need to do just for me. I need to look to Kimberly to get a compelling reason. I need to look to my children. I need to look to my family. I need to go way beyond myself because I'm not willing to commit, I'm not willing to discipline myself to do the things I need to do sometimes if it was just for me.
And some people are more motivated by pain than they are pleasure. So you can think about all the things that you're going to get in making these changes, the things that are going to be added and changed in beautiful ways in your life. But you can also consider the things that the pain that's going to come by not making these changes. And the pain can often be a bigger driver, but what you don't want is to keep doing the exact same things you've been doing and get the same results that you've been getting. I mean, what would you think if 10 years from now, you're on the same trajectory that you've been on for the last year, or the last 3, or the last 5? That can be enough pain in and of itself to stimulate you to be the catalyst to make the changes you need to make.
So to help you through this process, now's a good time to pause the video again and write down 5 reasons why accomplishing your new vision for your marriage is a must, why it's gotta happen. For example, your happiness depends on it. Your health and well-being are at stake, and you need to do this to regain your health and vitality. The future of your kids and your grandkids is at stake because they're watching what you do right now. They're watching your every move, and what you do right now may set a precedence for them. How about if you don't do this, you'll be a hypocrite and you'll feel completely incongruent and you couldn't live with yourself that way.
Well, the reality of it is that you're just doing nothing more than causing yourself pain, causing your mate pain, and causing your family pain. And you have it completely within your power to change it. And you can change it in an instance. It's the instance that you decide to make a difference.
So the next part of this is you've got your commitment, you've got your vision, you've got your big why. Now the question is, who do you need to become to experience this vision? Because the person that you have been has given you the results that you've got today. In other words, what you've been doing, right, has led right up to where you are today. So it goes without saying, to get a new outcome, you have to be a different person who has different habits and different behaviors and makes different choices, makes different decisions, has different routines, has different priorities. So the question is this: who is the person that has the marriage of your dreams? How do they think? What's their morning routine look like? How do they interact with their mate? How do they interact with their kids?
This is so good, and it's super, super powerful, and it might seem like an abstract concept. So what you might consider doing is looking at people in your life that you really, really admire and questioning and asking yourself, what do they do that I'm not doing? And how can I do those things, implement those very habits and skills so that I can experience what they're doing, what they have?
Does this person honor and respect their mate at a higher level?
Do they listen with intention to understand? Do they interrupt their mate? Do they talk to them disrespectfully? Do they make their mate laugh? Do you find the joy in your differences? It's easy when you identify what needs to happen and then make the decision to do it differently.
Okay, I want to add one more concept to the idea of identifying who you need to become to experience the marriage of your dreams. Because the reality is that anybody, if you sit down and you take a few minutes and you're really, really honest with yourself, you're transparent with yourself, you can identify, without reading a book, without going to counseling or therapy, you can identify what you need to do to change things. I mean, you know at your core, you know in your heart what needs to happen. So take a few minutes and ask yourself this question: what 3 things that if I stopped doing these things, what 3 behaviors, what 3 habits, what 3 things do you know that if you stopped doing them would change things dramatically in your relationship? It would make your mate feel less hurt, make them feel more honored and respected, make them feel more heard, make your mate feel that you're prioritizing your relationship more. So the question again is, what 3 things that if you stopped doing these things would dramatically change the trajectory of your relationship? Identify those 3 things. What 3 things could you do that you know that when you implement these things, you will have immediate positive results in your relationship. There are three things that you know that your mate needs from you. There are three habits that could be changed. There are three behaviors that, if you brought these into your daily life, would change things dramatically, because your mate would feel more loved. You would feel more connection with each other. Maybe it's prioritizing your time differently. Maybe it's spending more time together. Maybe it's
choosing them over your family. There's certain things that are going to mean the most to your mate, and most likely you know what they are.
you've just not been doing them for whatever reason. Maybe you haven't been doing it because you don't feel like it. Or maybe you've just developed some bad habits. Or maybe you don't feel like your mate deserves it. Or maybe you feel like you want them to earn your love or earn your approval. Maybe you've been withholding it because you want them to suffer. I don't know. But you know what? Whatever it is, you know that if you change that behavior, things would turn on a dime. So that's one way to help you identify who this person is, because there's certain things that they need to stop doing, and there's certain things that they need to start doing. It's like this. If you were a restaurant and your mate was your customer, how do you think your relationship would be if your mate rated you with 5 stars?
You know what I love about that is the customer's always right.
So, what does it take to be a 5-star restaurant? Ambiance, it's the environment, the menu, customer service, attention to details, entertainment. It's all of these things. And so if we were to put attention into all of these types of details in our relationship, can you just imagine how our mate would respond to that?
And by the way, if you're a 5-star restaurant and you're creating an experience that's unmatchable, you never have to worry about your mate straying or even having the thought, because it's only when you have your needs that aren't being fulfilled that you start looking for other possibilities. But if you're a 5-star restaurant serving quality food, offering variety at times, there's so much parallel in this example that if you implemented it in your relationship, you would see amazing results.
All right, so now we've talked about commitment, vision, your big why, who you need to become. The next part of building your business plan is to strategically identify what you need to be doing now so that you can accomplish that vision. So here's some questions to help stimulate your thinking. What can you do to experience a deeper expression and feeling of love with your mate? What needs to happen to have a more exciting and meaningful sex life? What needs to happen to experience more quality time together? What change needs to be made to experience more certainty about your future together? What can you do to bring a stronger sense of meaning to your relationship? What can you do personally to stretch and grow yourself so that you personally could overcome the barriers that you may have had? How can you support your mate in something that's really important to them? Maybe something that you've been withholding from them in the past. Now, when you answer all these questions, you will know what you need to do. What new decisions need to be made? What choices do you need to make? What changes do you need to make in your life? Do you need to change out your wardrobe? Do you need to lose some weight? Do you need to change careers? Obviously, you need to reprioritize your time.
And I think fundamentally, you need to change how you think. So much of what we do every day is what we did yesterday, because when we wake up, we're thinking the same thoughts. But what would happen if you had a list of questions the night before that you answered on how you were going to really light your mate up the next day? Something that you were going to do for them completely unselfishly, not expecting anything in return, but just to do it because you love them. And when you wake up in the morning, you actually think about these things and you choose to interact and be different.
I love everything you said. Okay, so as you're identifying what needs to happen, it helps if you go back to the vision and you look at each part of that vision, how you spend time together, how you recreate together, how you communicate, what your sex life looks like, what your interaction with your friends and family is, how you prioritize your time. So when you look at each one of those things individually and you ask yourself, what has to happen so that we can, and then you fill in the blank with regard to each one of those things. And it requires a lot of reprioritization. It requires a lot of restructuring in your life. But as we said earlier, the things that you have done, the person that you have been, the habits and practices and routines that you have brought you to the very place that you are today. So to get somewhere else requires a restructuring, maybe a reinvention of yourself, a reinvention of who you are so that you are congruent with the person that you need to be to have the outcome that you want.
So, a big part of this is being conscientious and being intentional, and also anticipating the opportunities for you to really shine with your mate. What I mean by that is you want to anticipate doing things differently. Anticipate when you get together for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, when you're around other family members, how you are going to do it differently. Think about it in advance and then you execute the plan. It's actually that simple.
So, this is the next step in the process, and that is collaboration. Collaboration is where you're not just planning by yourself, but you're planning with your mate. You're planning your future together, not your future apart or individually. So many people say after years of marriage that they've just, grown apart. People say we've grown apart all the time. Well, the reason people grow apart is because they haven't been growing together. And how you grow together is by collaborating on your life together. One of the ways that Kimberly and I have always collaborated is we have engaged in personal development together. We go to seminars and retreats together. We read the same books together. We engage in recreational activities together. We identify things that we both want to do, that we're both interested in. We engage in those activities. We schedule those activities. We improve our skills in those activities.
You know what I love about this is that when I got married, a big part of it was I just enjoyed being with my husband. He was my best friend and he still is my best friend. And so we look for recreational activities, for example, or common interests that we can pursue together. And one of the things that we've enjoyed most of our married life is tandem riding. And what we love about tandem riding is that he can work out as hard as he wants and I can sightsee, for example, but we also can have dynamic conversation and we're doing something that supports our health. So we look for activities that we both enjoy, that we both have in common, and we pursue those specifically.
For example, we've done a golf clinic together.
And by the way, I want to elaborate on the golf clinic because this is a great example of an activity that my husband really enjoyed that I actually disliked. But because he loved it, I decided to sign us up for a clinic to go to get some skills. And guess what happened? Out of that, I engaged in an activity I never would have, but I actually found something else that I really love that we can do for a lifetime together. So, when you actually dip your toe into your mate's pool of desire, you're both going to expand your life in beautiful ways above and beyond something that you might not have ever considered before.
I've got the total counterpart to that. Kimberly has loved dancing our whole life. And incidentally, we've been married for 35 years. I hated dancing my whole life. Dancing was the last thing that I wanted to do. And frankly, I withheld that joy, that pleasure from Kimberly by refusing to engage in that activity with her. Just recently, in the last couple of years, I agreed to, because I couldn't be incongruent anymore. I really decided that I can't live with myself not supporting Kimberly and doing something that she was so passionate about. So after all this time, I agreed to do a series of ballroom dancing lessons, which started, 2.5 years ago, and we're still doing. And just as Kimberly learned to love golf, I learned to love dancing, and it's really been an amazing collaboration. So a big part of collaboration is identifying what you can do together, but also supporting each other in doing what's important for your mate, even if it's not something that you want to do.
According to Dr. Willard Harley, couples should spend 15 hours of designated time together doing mutually enjoyable activities. This is actually something you most likely were doing when you were dating. But after you get married, because of work and family and responsibilities, This often gets curtailed, gets cut short, and it really impacts your relationship. So I encourage you every Sunday, you put it on your books, you schedule it like a doctor's appointment or a business meeting on how you're going to engage with your mate.
So basically, that's an hour a day of quality time together and an entire day on the weekend.
And for us, one way that we've discovered is an easy way to incorporate that into our life is that we exercise together. And in exercising together, which is something we would do anyways, we get to enjoy each other's company. We just find activities that are fun. I mean, after all, exercise should be fun.
So this is where we get into scheduling, and this is the final element to your marriage business plan for 2025. So we've got a vision, and we've got the why, and we've got the who and the what and the collaboration, but now it's all got to get scheduled or it doesn't happen, because if you don't schedule it, it really won't happen, because life is crazy. We're getting things, challenges, crises thrown at us all the time. So if it's not on the schedule, it doesn't happen.
It's a dream if it's not on the schedule.
Absolutely. But this is a dream. So to make this dream a reality, we've got to schedule it. So we do something called romantic calendaring. And that is prioritizing our relationship and knowing that we need to connect all the time, but sometimes we need to connect on a deeper level. Sometimes we need more time together, away from everybody, away from the kids, away from family, away from our house where we have an environment that triggers us all the time, right? Where there's no end to the distractions.
So we start with date night. Once a week, you should definitely have a date night. And then we have a weekend getaway. Once every quarter, just the two of us, Saturday and Sunday. You plan for it. You make sure that you have somebody to watch the kids. You plan on how you're going to save the money. And even if it's just driving to a nearby town and spending a night at a hotel, it gives you the opportunity to have new stimulus, to have new thoughts, and to focus on each other.
And then every year we want a week or two where we're away from everybody without family, where we can reconnect and we can plan our future together, collaborate on our future together, design our future together, and decide as a couple where we want to go. And this doesn't happen unless you schedule it. So your business plan for 2025, no. Your marriage business plan for 2025. You're going to commit to it. You're going to develop a compelling vision that gets you really excited, that's really juicy, that is a driving force for you. You're going to come up with a big why on why you've got to do it. You're going to identify who you've got to become to make this happen. You're going to identify exactly what steps and changes and decisions that you need to make starting today and throughout the year, so that by the end of the year, you've achieved this vision.
And this is how it's going to be different than all the New Year's resolutions in the past, is that you're going to create this vision. You're going to actually create an action plan. You're going to put it into action by your calendar. But I strongly, strongly encourage you, this needs to be someplace very present in your home that you can look at daily, if not at least weekly, so that you can stay on track. And at the end of the year, you can look back and have all of the activities that you wanted to experience with your mate. They happened because you planned for it. You identified it and you intended it.
All right, everybody, let's make 2025 the best year of our lives, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in our business, and especially in our marriage. And if you like this video, please give us a thumb up, please subscribe, and please share. Thank you for being here.